So good morning, distinguished guests. It's an honor for me and Do Ventures to be here today, and I would like to thank Da Nang Department of Science and Technology for inviting us. Today the topic is about the Vietnam ecosystem. I would like to highlight the important role of Da Nang in this ecosystem. So before I begin, I would like the audience to get to know me a little bit better. So I made my first dollars when I was 7. I launched my first company when I was 13 years old. I started my first e-commerce platform when I was 22 years old. And I had my first major exit when I was 27 years old. I made my first investment as a professional venture capitalist when I was 31 years old. And 4 years ago, I founded my first VC fund, Do Ventures. So you actually know my secret, my age. About Do Ventures, we are an early stage VC fund that invests in tech companies in Vietnam. And in 2020, right after we established the fund, we were very fortunate to be able to invest in one startup from Da Nang, which is a company called Sally. So today I would like to share my view as a founder and also as a venture capitalist about the ecosystem. So first is about our government support. So in 2019, the Politburo in Vietnam actually issued Resolution 52 that outlined 3 important goals for the tech ecosystem. The first one is to raise the digital economy contribution to about 30% of the GDP. The second goal is to get into the top 40s. So it's funny enough, I think James from Quest really helped Singapore to get from 18 to 8. And I think it's our goal to be in the top 40. And with the support of everyone here, especially from Quest Ventures, I think we will be able to meet this goal. And the third goal is to expand the infrastructure, especially the 5G coverage nationwide. And where we're at, I think right now our internet population is over 72 million people, and we rank 12 globally in terms of number of internet users. And because of this infrastructure, I think our digital economy last year grew fastest in South Asia. And the numbers was about $30 billion US. And if you take 30 billion divided by our GDP last year, 430 billion, we hit about 7% of that penetration. And our government have very ambitious goal, right? From 7% to grow to 30% by 2030. So what does it mean? The government projection of the GDP by 2030 is about 760 billion US. So 30% means that our digital economy need to grow from 30 billion US from last year to about 200 billion US by 2030. And coincidentally, I think Google Temasek report also predicted that by 2030, our digital economy would have 2 scenarios. The base case would be about 90 billion, but then the best case would be 200 billion. So when we talk about the startup ecosystem, right, I think James mentioned 5 factors, but now today I would like to highlight the 2 most important factors, in my opinion, that would affect the startup ecosystem. So the first one is talent. And I was very fortunate because I started joining the ecosystem from day 1. So I happen to know many founders. So in our observation, we categorize them into 3 different generations. So first generation started around 2000 to 2006. Second generation started around 2007 to 2015. And now we do have the third generations started the business from 2016 till now. So for the first generations, we have the founders of VNG, we have the founder of VC Corp, Dsac, etc. And most importantly, in this first era, many founders focus on very fundamental sector of the internet business, like media business, e-commerce, and gaming. And our observation was that once they become the dominant player in one vertical, they quickly expanded to many verticals. For example, the case of VNG, they were the winner in the gaming sector, and then later on, they quickly expanded to do e-commerce, they do media and content, and now we know them by the product Zalo, right? So they are number 1 in OTT app, and also they're entering the fintech space. For the second generation founders, the key difference was that the competition level was much higher for the second-gen founders because they need to compete with the incumbent, the first-gen. At the same time, when they started the business, like the case of Tiki in 2012, they had to face the threat of Lazada entering the market. So there's a threat of regional competition. So it took longer time for the second-gen founders to become the winner in the space. And then after that, one of the very important things that we recognized was they didn't really expand to other vertical, but they reinvest in the core business, and they only expanded to adjacent businesses. For example, Tiki started with selling books, and then they become like a marketplace selling everything. After JD investment, they started to enter cross-border commerce business, and then they also set up the logistics business, and now they spin off the logistics company into an independent service. But what's clear about first and second gen, we rarely hear these founders expand outside Vietnam. So that's the observations. But what I want to highlight is the third gen founders. That's the reason why Do Ventures have a very strong commitment into investing in Vietnam right now. Because for the third gen founders, we see many interesting characteristics. The first one is their regional ambitions, or I may say global ambitions. So in Da Nang, from Da Nang, I happen to meet so many tech founders, started their business here in Da Nang, but they serve global markets. And one of the examples I use here in the slide is a company called Ecomd Media. So I was here a month ago by the invitation of Ecomd, and Ecomd tries to support many cross-border merchants from Da Nang to sell to the US via TikTok shop, so which is very, very important and very attractive to us. And the second characteristic of the third-gen founder is many of them actually came back from overseas. So they are Vietnamese diasporas, or they are Vietnamese students studying in the States, and now they're coming back to contribute to the countries. And what we learned is many of them has working experience in internet giants like Amazon, Facebook, Google, and they bring with them back the proprietary and the core tech. So one good example is Genetica is a company in the gene testing vertical, and they're doing quite well in innovating their solution to the local audience. And the third and last category that I want to share with you is many of the startups right now, they used to be alumni of large-scale startups. So all the 4 companies on the slide from the third column, the founders used to work for Lazada. And after working for Lazada and see how things are done in the regional scale, they're really inspired to build their startup. And the last category are serial entrepreneurs. So we do have some first-time founders, and some of them were very fortunate to make a small exit, and they continue to build new startups. And actually, the company we invested in, previously called Sally, now the new name is Case. The founder is a serial entrepreneur. He founded several companies. So my conclusion of this slide is, this is the reason why we have a strong belief in the new generation of founders in Vietnam. And we really hope that founders in Vietnam not only become a new source of innovation in the country, but can also build disruptive products to serve the region. And the second part I want to highlight is funding, because James also mentioned that risk capital is so important to grow the innovation ecosystem. So what about funding in Vietnam? So every year, we also collaborate with NIC to publish this report. So as you can see in the charts, before 2018, nothing really happened in Vietnam, because every year, Vietnam only got 50 to about 100 million in total capital invested into the tech ecosystem. But the first tipping point happened in 2018. So for the first time, the total capital invested into Vietnam went up to about $443 million US. And actually, the record year of Vietnam was 2021, 1.4 billion, just like any other places in the world. But I think after this record year, we do have pretty much of a slowdown. And actually, the number of capital invested into Vietnam decreased to about 529 million last year. But if you can see, the number of deals didn't decrease much. So number of deals only decreased about less than 20% from 2022 to 2021, and only a decrease less than 10% in last year. And when we look at the global scene, I think I want to highlight that Vietnam only have a decrease of about 17% in total capital invested and about 9% of number of deals last year. Whereas in the global market, this decrease was much higher. So frankly speaking, we can see that foreign investors still really care about the ecosystem. And I think we didn't see many large ticket size deals happen, but we still see a lot of deals happening in the Vietnam market. And I want to deep dive into the most popular ticket size. And we can see that right now in Vietnam, most of the deals are quite small ticket. The most popular ticket size are from $500,000 to about $3 million deals. And we also talk about different stages and the average ticket size in Vietnam according to different stages. So this chart is very interesting to me. So when I first started doing e-commerce, Series A was $400,000. So last year, Series A was on average $6 million. So my joke is that inflation didn't really just happen outside, right? It's also happened in venture investment. But last year we saw that Series B tremendously decreased in the average ticket size. So Series B went up to like 25 million on average, but last year it decreased to about 14 million. So we can see that valuation in the later stage actually have big adjustment. But why the early stage in the Series A didn't adjust much, I think is because of the huge interest of foreign investors still entering Vietnam. And we're also trying to see what kind of sectors that Vietnam have most investment in. And for many years, I think before 2021, all the investment actually went into very fundamental sectors like payment and retail, which is e-commerce. But for the past 2 years, it's almost disappeared. And actually, last year, we have a record investment in the 2 new sectors. Number one is healthcare. So last year, we have a record year for healthcare with 184 million total investment into healthcare. And education also follows suit. So we have also the highest number of investment into education. And this is the map of all the foreign investors entering Vietnam. So last year, we have a total of 99 active investors that participated in at least one investment in Vietnam. And the Singapore investor actually led as the most active investor in Vietnam. And this is the list of all the active local funds and foreign funds in Vietnam. What I want to highlight is the position of Vietnam among other Southeast Asian nations. So actually last year, Vietnam remained at the third most active venture investment market, only behind Singapore and Indonesia. So this is very encouraging for us within the region. So I also want to highlight the role of local funds. So I think the Da Nang Department of Science and Technology already shared that it's very important to groom the local fund managers because we can actually enter and take more risks in the local market. And then after we help the company grow to a certain stage, foreign investor can put more money to help accelerate the growth. So who are the local investors right now? So actually I want to go back in time a little bit and talk about the different generation of VCs. So besides generation of talents, we now want to look at who are the venture capitalists. So we have the first gen VCs in Vietnam. The first fund established in Vietnam was actually IDG, and they entered Vietnam around 2004. And then for the Gen 2, we do have many local funds established in Vietnam, and they mostly raise funds from domestic market. And now we do have the Gen 3 VCs. And most of the Gen 3 VCs, I think we want to call ourselves purpose-driven VCs because many of the fund managers, they want to tackle social problems and using technology to improve the societies. And a very interesting statistic because all 6 funds started from 2020 until now, 100% of the fund have at least 1 female partners. So yay to gender equality. And And many of us managed to raise funds from foreign limited partners. So for our case specifically, we work very closely with the Korean government. And I think we also learned a lot and got a lot of support from the Korean government. And many of us, majority of us, want to invest in new sectors that contribute to the growth of the society, like green tech. So now I want to talk about Da Nang a little bit. So this has been my 5th time to Da Nang since January 2024. And like almost I come here every month. Why? Because I can see the potential of the city. And I list here, some of the potential that we see. Number one is Da Nang's strategic location. I think we cannot compare with the living standard in Da Nang right now. So I love to be here because the air quality is so clean, and I can live next to the beach, and I can do tech business, right? I don't need to be in any other cities. Second is, I think Da Nang have very good visionary leadership, and this event is a testament to that visionary leadership. And the last part I want to mention is the talented workforce from Da Nang. So I was surprised because I think beginning of the year, I managed to come to Da Nang just for a very casual trip, and I met one founder. He actually co-founded a company in Da Nang, and within a few years, he managed to grow his business very successfully in the US market. His tech team is entirely based in Da Nang, and his revenue was massive. I was surprised, and he's so profitable, he never raised funds. So I just want to find many more cases like that in Da Nang. But my conclusion is that we need to have a very focused sector for the talent in Da Nang. Because I think Da Nang, although the city is growing, but the population in Da Nang for consumer market is not that big compared with other regions. However, the talent workforce here is just so talented. They can build business that serve not only Da Nang city, but they can serve the big city like Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi. And even many of the business here are now serving consumer in the US. So that's the reason why I think my view is that these are the 3 sectors that I really want to make investment in Da Nang. I go from bottom to top because the last part is cross-border business. So I see there's so many talented founders here. They already built successful cross-border business from Da Nang. And I want to see more and more of the quality founders in the cross-border business. And then secondly, I also met so many talented founders. They build AI solutions here. They build SaaS solutions here that can serve many SME or corporates in other regions as well. And last is smart manufacturing. I think for startup in Ho Chi Minh City to go into manufacturing is hard. It's not that easy because we cannot go to the industrial zone every day. We cannot meet on the factory owner. But I think Da Nang would be the best place to look into smart manufacturing tech because I think you have a growing industrial business here in Da Nang. So these are my humble opinions about the focus area that Da Nang can play. But I think the concept is we need to narrow down the sectors and then we can foster more talented founders from Da Nang. And I want to end my presentation by sharing a very personal story. When I was 17 years old, I was an exchange student in the US. And we had this networking group with American students. So one of the American friends asked me where I was from. And I told him I was from Vietnam. So the next question he asked me was, oh, Vietnam, are you guys still fighting over there? So it was 2004, and I was shocked. I didn't have an iPhone or a cell phone, with a smart device back then, but I tried to explain to him that our country is really safe, and please come, right? But I didn't have any photo to prove that. And then I came home, I was thinking about his comment, and then I thought to myself, I couldn't blame him because everything the American kids, American students learn about Vietnam is about the Vietnam War. So couldn't blame him. But I think, is it my vision that Vietnam shouldn't be remembered as a country of war? But hopefully, in the next few years, Vietnam should be remembered as the next tech hub of the world.